Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder, and our program today is entitled Making Fun. And we're playing on the, I think, triple entendre here, the idea of making fun in the sense of making fun of someone in that sort of semi-cruel, sadistic way, or in a playful way. You can do it either way. And then there's also the idea of making fun, that is, having more fun in your life, doing things that are fun, adding new fun things to your life. And finally, there's the idea of taking what you're currently doing and having more fun doing those things. We're going to have a lot of fun in this episode.
You know, Steve, a lot of people say life is what you make it. I guess everybody says it.
Well, you sure say it a lot.
I do. Well, I really believe it. It occurred to me once what that really means, and I'm bringing it up now to make sure that everyone listening has had the same awareness. Again, when you say it, do you really mean it? Do you really believe that life is a two-way street and that the most important part is the side where you choose what you do with what's already happened to you? It amazes me the amount of time and energy that people waste trying somehow to control things that have already happened. It's done. It's over with. But the idea of taking responsibility now for what I do with it, for my response, to go from a knee-jerk reaction to a conscious response, a choice that I make and then initiate. We're not really familiar with that process. Too often, we fail to realize we have choices. It's in the nature of stress to take those choices away and cause us to see things in a binary way, everything or nothing, all this or all that. This has to be totally right or it must be absolutely wrong. That comes out of stress. And when we relax and remind ourselves that we have choices, we can initiate this whole other side of our lives. And today, making fun, why wait for fun to happen is what we're saying, when you can deliberately initiate fun in your life. And I don't mean just with you in mind. One of the best ways to make fun is not to hurt other people. We'll talk about making fun of other people, but to help somebody feel like they're happy and having fun too, put a smile on their face, and you get a giggle going back and forth. And there are few rewards, few things feel as good as being able to help somebody else feel happy and effervescent.
It's really, I think, the second best of all the feelings. You know, number one is being in love. I think that's the best one there is. But second best is helping other people, whether it's helping them out of trouble or helping them into fun. However,
helping them laugh.
Helping them laugh. Yeah, help them have a good time. You know, it's hard to say what percentage of the equation people believe in terms of how much life is done to you and how much it's what you make of it. But I spent a lot of my life on the road traveling by myself and therefore spending a whole lot of time in restaurants by myself. And, you know, you can only read so much. So once in a while, I'd sit back and like eavesdrop on the conversations of the people that are in the booths or the tables next to me. And invariably, 80% of the time, they were talking about bad stuff that's happening to them. They were talking about victim-y kind of stuff, like, well, my boss is wrecking my life, or my spouse, or my kids, or everything's... And I don't know if that's what's going on in their own internal dialogue all the time, but it seems to me when you're out with friends or even, you know, business colleagues, you have a choice of talking about fun stuff or unfun stuff, victimized kind of stuff. It's pretty rare, but awful wonderful when you get to hear a conversation about somebody who says, well, you know, this stuff did happen to me, but I took the experience and I turned it around and I made, you know, lemonade out of the lemons. You know, I took the lemons and I squeezed it over lobster and I did something really good. It's nice when you hear those conversations, but it seems to me fairly rare. I think most people are dwelling on the wrong part of the equation, the what happens to me versus what do I do about it? You know, the fact is you were born in the 20th century, maybe the 21st century if you're a really young listener. You were born in the 20th century, and that was a sort of accident of karma or something. I mean, it wasn't, you didn't have a whole lot to say about it theoretically, and the parents you had and the situation, a lot of stuff happened to you that you had no say about, but the attitude you take about those things is the key. And as we've been so often emphasizing, if you're in stress, you don't really have much choice. If you're in stress, then you just sort of react the way you reacted last time. It's when you can stop and be out of stress, take that deep breath, take that moment before you speak, take that look before you leap. then you have changed the whole equation. It's no longer stimulus response. It's no longer knee-jerk reaction. It's now stimulus, and then, wait a second, perception. Oh, how do I want to look at this? What attitude do I want to have about this? Am I going to enjoy this experience or hate this experience? I have a choice. And then once I realize I want to look at it this way, I have yet another choice to make about what do I want to actually do about it. I can do what I did last time, or I can choose to do something new this time.
You know, this whole idea of a center between stimulus and response called perception.
Only when you're out of stress.
In terms of the human mind and the human brain, yeah, we see in nature a stimulus response where it's pretty hard to conceive of the organism having a point of awareness in the middle where it makes a choice to look at one or the other, for example, or whether animals are able to do that and to what degree. To talk about this point in the middle between what's done to us and what we do with it as a place where we can wake up and pay attention and be aware. That's really the center. It's always the center, right? It's always the middle. In terms of the Trinity in man, the mental, emotional, and physical nature, the center, of course, is the emotion. So it's more a feeling than a thought also, isn't it? That awareness, that, wait a minute now, let's not get so caught up in the drama here that we're just reacting autonomically, robotically, like some machine. What is freedom, if not the freedom to be awake, aware, alert, cogent, lucid, all of those kinds of things, in the moment right here, aware that I have choices and I choose to have fun with whatever's going on around me. I had this horrible foundry job when I was working my way through college, an iron foundry, Stephen. It was just it was an unbelievable experience. I could write a whole book about my summer in the foundry. And it was such a miserable, miserable 8-hour existence that I had to play games. I had to play mind games. I had to create these fantasy stories. I didn't lose touch with the fact that they were just stories in my mind. I had a method to what I was doing to make the time go by and to make fun, to make something positive to the best of my ability out of this horrible, grueling, sweaty, painful, swinging sledgehammers, you know, and gagging on this dust in the air. And my shirt caught on fire one day. I mean, it was just like,
you're having a lot of fun talking about it.
It's like the inferno itself, the lake of fire. Well, it's fun to remember. It wouldn't be fun to be trapped there and have no place else to go or no other kind of job. So that's really the only way I could survive, was to make fun out of this horrible situation, make a game out of it. And I knew what I was doing, but it worked nevertheless. That's the power of the imagination. It's always willing to play along.
Yeah, the mind has an amazing capacity for making whatever you want to make it true seem true. You know, you can just do that. It can take this experience, which somebody else would have the relatively exact same experience, and they'd be miserable, and another person could have that same experience and go, "Well, that was." In fact, that's really one of the biggest separations of people, is that attitude piece right there. That when somebody faces something and experiences failure with it, some people go, "Oh, that feels bad. I don't ever want to do that again," and they avoid it forever. And other people go, "Well, that's interesting. I mean, look at that. I need to figure that out. I need to figure, you know, how can I get good at that?" And to me, that's the dividing line. That's where people at some point early in their life decide that I'm only going to do things that I'm naturally good at, and I'm not going to try anything new. And other people are saying, "I want to be an explorer. I want to check things out. I want to make fun out of everything. If I can do it, it's fun. And if I can't do it, I'm going to make it fun so I can do it."
Well, before we go any further into this, let's talk about the negative side of this, the obvious entendre of making fun of somebody, as if I could find some happiness or joy in making somebody suffer somehow.
Well, I mean, there are sadistic people who that is how they get their pleasure and joy. But we're talking about people who aren't particularly mean or cruel. they do this. They make fun of somebody, like a group of people get together and make fun of somebody who's not part of that group. In childhood, it's called bullying, and it's done to feel good because you're putting somebody else down. I'm not quite sure where it's coming from, but it's always some prejudice, some us and them kind of thing that goes back to this. They're not good. They're not us, I think.
Yeah, I think you've got that exactly right. It's a power thing, and if I can't build myself up, then I'll put you down. Yeah. So relatively, you create these layers, like sedimentary layers, classes, and structures. But
and to some extent, we're all guilty of this because we only buy bad news. We only listen to news about people who are doing worse than us. We're not interested in too much about people who are doing great and wonderful and having magnificent. That doesn't sell newspapers. That doesn't sell television and radio shows. The general population is got this prejudice for wanting to feel superior, or if they can't do that, at least have somebody else who seems inferior.
But what's funny about it is my point, and we even have a branch of humor. Slapstick, vaudeville itself was based on, the Three Stooges, getting your eyes poked out and being slapped and hit on top of the head. And it's hilarious. And then maybe the rationalization or justification is, well, they're actors, they're really friends, nobody's really getting hurt. But nevertheless, what is this human nature that we think that's funny? Somebody... the classic banana peel. The guy slips, Charlie Chaplin falls down, everybody laughs. Why is that funny? I'm not saying I wouldn't be laughing right along with you, but I'm not sure I know what's funny about making fun of, or laughing at somebody's misfortune. It's odd to me. What part of us that must appeal to? What do you call that?
There is a way of doing that. For example, people really enjoy making fun of politicians that don't agree with them, or celebrities that do stupid things. And because they're in the general public eye, it's almost like fair game. You're allowed to make fun of those kinds of people. They can't even sue you for it, So there is something to be said of when somebody is disagreeing with you and you're making fun of their belief system or you're making fun of what they're saying. But to actually... make fun of the individual person. It's like the parents saying you're a bad kid instead of saying what you did was bad. Yeah. I think it's much more appropriate to make fun of what somebody does, but to make fun of them, to make a caricature of them and make them into what they really aren't, to make them as if they're not the whole being they are, they're only this one trait kind of thing. That's a popular form of humor, but I see a lot of cruelty in that.
I think it's a fine point because you can say, well, it was my intention just to laugh at the situation, not at you, but they're hurting. And if you contributed to somebody's hurt, you weren't conscious and you weren't kind. You have not improved upon the silence. I read a quote not long ago about that. I really liked it. It's just this rhetorical question that we can use to ask ourselves before we speak and are not sure if we should say what we're about to say. The question this sage had was, does it improve upon the silence?
That's nice.
That's really sweet.
I think what I've often used is it better left unsaid, which is sort of similar.
Yeah. But it also challenges the idea that silence is empty, when in fact silence is full.
Oh, and rich. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess what it comes down to in my belief system, how most of us tend to look at the world as if it's divided into good guys and bad guys. And then we always have to decide, is this individual or this family or this neighborhood, are they good guys or bad guys? Well, the problem is that doesn't work. It really never has worked. But the better, more appropriate point of view is just slightly different and a fine enough variation, I guess, that it doesn't occur to most people. And that's simply that there's good and bad in every one. Now, you've probably even heard that a million times in your life, and you've said it, but now I want you to really consider the difference. If you gave up completely your worldview, that this world is made of good people and bad people, and in every way substituted an idea that each of us has good and bad in us, right? A spiritual side, a material side, the devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other shoulder. that whole paradox that comes up in literature and mythology from time out of mind. Well, what if those two aspects, that duality, just represents the good and bad in us, the positive, the life-affirming, the light, versus the dark side, that we're capable of doing not only wonderful things, sacrifices, giving our lives to save other people. Human beings will do that, but they'll also kill other people at the drop of a hat and do unspeakable things as well. So that's in everyone. And then there has to be some aspect of self that manages that. That's what we're talking about when we talk about finding the true self or the higher self. It's a self that says, unless I'm in real danger, I'm going to bring myself to the positive end of this duality. I'm going to bring myself to live as much goodness and strength and beauty and kindness and love as I possibly can. But we're living in a material world, so sometimes we get scared. That's what it is. We just get confused, and we become stressed and anxious and nervous, and that's when the dark side comes forward and says, I'll handle this. And sometimes we can make some bad decisions. I think any cruelty, a sense of vengeance, for example, any pleasure or satisfaction that is derived in the suffering of others is an expression of that dark side that's in each and every one of us. But it's not like, well, which one are you going to be? It's like, be that third element that manages these two.
Yeah, that's in everyone, but in people who are healthy, it's a rare occurrence that happens when they're in stress, when they're scared. In unhealthy people, sadists, it's the norm for some people. Some people love hurting other people, making other people feel bad. But that's not the normal human being. That's a disease. For normal human beings, they don't do that. They don't do cruel things to other human beings except when they're scared, except when fear enters. And it really goes back to the rustling bush syndrome, you know? 100,000 years ago, we walked out and the bushes were rustling. And, 99 times out of 100, it's the wind. But one time out of 100, it's a tiger or it's a lion or it's a wild animal that could kill us. And so our ancestors learned that even though 99 times out of 100, it's the wind, it could be that tiger. So let's get scared and act as if it's a tiger and let's run back to a safe place. So we have inherent in each of us this DNA that's infused with paranoia. There's this whole part of us that if it's not clearly safe, then let's act as if it's dangerous just in case. And so when we start to get more scared and when our brain starts to get more scared and it starts to breathe less, and we start to get tense and we start to feel anxiety, then we hear more rustling in the bushes, we hear more things that might be dangerous. This person, I'm going to do something bad to them preemptively. It's like I'm so afraid. There's this fear thing going on that I'm not going to wait for them to hurt me. I'm going to go throw a spear into those bushes, just to make sure. I'm going to act preemptively and strike out at what I think is dangerous because I think if I don't, it might hurt me. And that really is a primitive response. And as we've always been talking about, when you take a deep breath, when you find yourself in paradise, which by definition means it's not only beautiful, but it's safe. When you feel safe, you don't have those kind of reactions. When you feel safe, when you recognize that this time the rustling is wind. This is just a little person. They're not they don't have a gun on me. They're not really trying to hurt me in any way. This is just somebody that I think is weird or different than me, and I don't need to be afraid of them. There's no danger coming from this person because they look different or act different than I do.
We touched on bullying. I guess this also brings up the idea of pranks and practical jokes and what's come to be called punking somebody. And again, I feel this strange conflict because part of me will laugh at that, and another part of me finds it really offensive. And that makes me uncomfortable to have these two different parts resonating. It's sort of like boxing, For me, as a man, I've always enjoyed watching men stand up. I don't mean street fighting because they're angry and drunk. I mean professional athletes who train really hard, who have a dream, who want to be champions, and like gladiators, and of course one of my heroes is Muhammad Ali, who floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee. I'm so pretty. He was a role model of mine, a hero of mine, mostly having to do with his willingness to say no to the government and risk his career rather than anything he did in the ring. And yet some other part of me finds it offensive. I sure don't want to get in there. I could never take it. I mean, I could hit somebody, I suppose, especially if I was angry at them. I'm certainly capable of doing that. I'd protect myself, certainly, if I'm backed into a corner. When I was on the radio and people would say, "Are you a pacifist?" I'd say, "Well, yes, of course, but I can't promise."
It's my best intention.
Yeah, but I may lose it. So, just don't put me in that situation. And I think a lot of people are like that. But the best way I know of to help myself, and maybe you too, if you have a similar kind of conflict, sort this out, is, again, to honor that there is a shadow in me. It's my ego side. It's the guy that rides shotgun, the part that identifies with the separated self, and it's always on guard. It just doesn't get to drive the car. It rides shotgun. The part that I want to consciously choose to guide me through this contradiction of feelings that I often have would be a higher self. So I suppose we're all in the process of becoming aware of our nature, the positive and negative sides, if you will, of our human nature and of our individuality. And then the idea is to redeem, not necessarily in a religious sense, as resurrection and redeeming and salvation, but even if only just in a psychological sense or an alchemical sense, to heal, to transmute or uplift the frequency so that we tend to pull more and more on the positive side, the life-affirming side, the let it go and forgive and live and let live kind of attitude, compassion and kindness, and really make an effort to be that kind of person. But I think we got to be honest about this shadow side that's in here. As long as we're in form, seems to me, as long as we're in these separated cages, these meat cages, then we're going to have some part of us that is just a little paranoid.
Yeah, and all of us, as you said, do find some joy in others being made fun of, whether it's like the Three Stooges or any slapstick kind of humor. As you said, you can justify it's actors, or Don Rickles, like insulting humor. I mean, there's a lot of great insulters out there who just tore people up. But it's entertainment. It's not meant. But if you've ever seen, you probably have, someone do that to someone, but it wasn't a show. It was they're just doing it to him. They're just insulting him, and they're calling him the N-word, or they're using racial slurs, or they're tearing them apart because of who they are or who they're associated with. That's not funny. And I don't. There's no part of me that finds that in reality funny. There are people who laugh at that. There are inadvertent slips that some people might find funny. Other people find very uncomfortable. I saw one just a few days ago. A friend of mine, acquaintance of mine, said to a friend of his wife, "So when's the baby due?" And it was 4 months ago. So but he didn't mean it to insult her, but that there was, and some people find that very funny, and I found it very uncomfortable. But
it's both. I can feel both.
There's some both in it.
I will laugh and then be ashamed of myself for laughing. Right?
Two kids on the play field, having a fist fight. Kids gather around to watch. I always found that uncomfortable. I'm a bit of a pansy when it comes. I've never hit a person. I even had a brother who hit me regularly growing up, but I was bigger and taller, and I'd sit on him and hold him down. You done? Are you not going to? And I let him up, and he hit me again. And I never used my fist on another human being in my entire life. The only thing I ever did once was somebody walked up and kicked my dog. This was like 30 years ago. Kicked my dog. It was walking on the sidewalk, and I took my hands and I pushed him away. But I've never struck it. I mean, I just don't get that. I don't get that violence thing. But I mean, I understand it intellectually. It comes from fear, and it's a natural reaction. I guess I've always felt a little safer than that somehow. I've never felt a need to get in a fight. But I have made fun of people. I have, dropped to the level of agreeing with how this person is silly or stupid or idiotic or what a wimp they are. I've done that, and I laugh, and then I'm ashamed of myself a little bit for that laughing. But there's that, angel and devil thing going on. Trying to heal that, trying to do less and less of that as I grow. And I think part of the message we're saying is that think before you do that. If you're going to make fun of how big a politician's ears are, it's a public figure, and maybe, but if you're talking about your brother, or if you're talking about your best friend and you're making fun of the way they look or how fat they are, or how, that's cruel. And I think we need to teach our children that that's not okay. It's not appropriate to make fun of other children in that way.
It's not only what you do, what you set in motion with regard to other people and the hurt that you cause them, but the way that then comes back karmically on you. The Talmud says we see the world not as it is so much as we are. And the Christian mystic Jacob Boehme said something similar about how the self always describes the self. I mean, these are like well-worded versions of "I know you are, but what am I?"
Exactly.
Right. And
just think of that.
There's profound truth in that little schoolyard taunt. So how would you know? I mean, this obsession that some people have with finding their power in hurting or humiliating or intimidating, and many of them are really good at finding those little scars and where's the Achilles heel on this one, and just using that.
Movie critics do it for a living.
I would, appeal to you. There is a higher power, the love, and today we're talking about making fun, making life fun, not making fun of people, but making fun for people. It's
with people.
So much more pleasurable to contribute to the world and share with the world than to think of yourself as only taking from the world. I think of that George Harrison song, I, Me, Mine. I, me, mine, I, me, mine. Well, fine. Let's say you win all of those. What have you got? Just you.
Yeah, and that can get kind of lonely if it's just you. We're talking about the positive aspects of making fun, and I'm thinking of like 3 or 4 different ways you could do that. One of them is to take what you're currently doing and find a way to have more fun at it, or to recognize the fun aspects of what you're currently doing and put more attention on them. Like you may have an 8-hour-a-day job and you don't like this part or that part or most of the parts, but there's this, 20 minutes where you get to talk to so-and-so and you really, really like, it's a lot of fun to talk to so-and-so, or there's this one task that you have to do each week that you really enjoy. Then pay attention to the fun part. We have a tendency to pay more attention to the unfun stuff. We have a tendency to notice the times that we were standing in that long line and not pay attention to the times that we were in that short line. All those times we were in that short line. We have a tendency to want to do that. The negative stuff is like, it sticks. It's like Velcro, and the positive stuff is like Teflon. It just slides right off. So to have more fun, maybe it's part of it's noticing how much fun you're having and paying more attention to that. So part of it is take what you currently do and have more fun with it. Another thing is do new fun things. I love to do new fun things. I just recently, last week, bought an iPad, and man, I'm having a ball with that sucker. That's just a toy. It's a new fun toy. I'm really, really enjoying it. All these cool things. It's, I had a Kindle, and I love the Kindle because it was great for not having to carry a million books with me when I go on the road, but the actual reading of it, the actual visual aspect of the reading wasn't quite as good as a book. It was close, but not quite as good. But this iPad is better than a book. Way better. I mean, it's just, my eyes go, it's like floating through the pages. There's so little eye strain. It's just, I love it. I just love it. And I'm having so much fun with it. So take your life and buy something or create something or do something new, find a new hobby. If you're not having enough fun, go find something to have some more fun with. That's another aspect. And then the third one I think we want to get into too is how a lot of this could be finding somebody to have fun with and feeding them with fun and getting fed by them with their fun. And, happiness is born a twin. There's just something real special about having fun with another or other people.
That's a very good point. You might think it goes without saying, but it doesn't. There are certainly ways for me to have fun alone. guitar, for example. That's very personal. I've played all my life. I enjoy playing. I don't play as much as I'd like, but...
And you rarely play in front of other people.
Yeah, not too often. I don't mind doing it.
No, you just rarely take the opportunity to do it.
They never seem too interested. But that's sort of a solo thing. My wife enjoys hearing it, but she's not...
She doesn't sit and listen to you play guitar.
Right.
It's like going on in the background of her life.
Not after 20 years of marriage.
Right.
And she has her solo activities too, and so we can make fun, we can have happiness and joy in our lives doing these solo activities. But of course, the big fun is when two or more are gathered in the name of love and happiness and fun.
That comes from a line that Paul wrote for Peter, Peter, Paul, and Mary when he got married. Whenever two and more of us are gathered in his name, there is love.
That's, I think, in the New Testament, actually.
Oh, maybe, well, could have been coming. He stole it from there.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I knew it from the song.
Yeah, it's Napoleon Hill's mastermind thing also, that our minds are multiplied, not only added together, but the whole being greater than the sum of the parts, a synergism that happens when those minds are at a loving frequency. That's what we call paradise. The brain guys call it the alpha brainwave level. I like our narrow awake term also. Not wide awake, that's too scattered. We need narrow awake. We're going to do that in just a minute. Show you what we're talking about. So, yeah, to share, that's a big part. To communicate your happiness, there's a whole set of happiness that's available when you bring other people into the mix. They will often laugh politely at jokes that aren't even funny, and you can reciprocate. And there is this, I don't know, again, this synergism that happens where I experience it as musicians sometimes do in a band. If you play with just two or more musicians, there's every once in a while this magical transformation that happens where you seem to be carried by the music, and it sounds so good that you can't hardly believe you're even participating in it, right? It's almost dreamlike. It's an alpha experience, and I guess I'm talking about the same kind of thing here that happens socially when you just sit in a circle of friends. And fireplaces are always nice because, the brain entrainment, that's a nice 10-cycle vibration there. It gets you right into alpha, and people feel warm and loved and lovable and accepting, and that's making fun, just the nature of being a social creature.
And it's not the external experience, because I can picture that same, fire sitting around and one person being excluded from the group and feeling absolutely miserable in the experience. So it's not the setup, it's what you're... Let's take, for example...
We'll put them in charge of keeping the fire going.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Right.
But take, for example, the entire world of sports. Let's say baseball. You can have fun playing baseball. I've had fun playing baseball. I had a lot of fun playing. But I've also remembered times when I was miserable playing baseball. And I remember kids who hated baseball, and they were forced by their parents into Little League. And baseball was... And I'll bet for a lot of the pros who are like barely hanging on by their skin of their teeth in single A baseball, they're not having fun. This is a job, and they're really... It's hard, and they're scared. It's not baseball that's fun. It's the person who is playing baseball with a particular attitude that's fun. To me, Willie Mays probably had more fun playing baseball than anybody I've ever seen in my entire life. Some people just have this attitude, they exude exuberance, and they just have fun with what they're doing. But it's not what they're doing. It's what they're doing. It's not the doing, it's them. It's the experience, the internal experience. So therefore, theoretically, any experience you have could be fun or could be not fun, depending on how you choose to look at it.
Well, it's always fun for me to go to paradise, to the alpha brainwave level. Audio journeys, another way we refer to the process of letting go of physical tension and feeling safe and creating a focus, calming your emotional nature, physically still, and then mentally very clear. And finding this balance between awake and asleep is what we're going to ask you to do now.
And this, most everyone finds to be fun. Some things like roller coasters, some people think are fun and some people are not fun. It's either fear or excitement, but this is neither. This is a sense of feeling safe and secure. This is a sense of feeling calm and peaceful. This is a sense of feeling like you're surrounded by safety and beauty. That's inherently a wonderful, fun experience. And your brain enjoys the experience of breathing deeply. It loves deep breathing. It hates holding its breath. It only does so because it thinks it's in danger. It loves deep breathing. So the more times you can take a few moments out of your life and take a few deep breaths and let your brain know, with your eyes closed and just feeling so warm and safe that life is safe, then I think you'll find that to be a great deal of fun. So let's go. Take a deep breath and begin the process of release.
Feel the chair supporting you, the sofa, the cushion, the pillow you're sitting upon. Feel the floor beneath your feet. And allow yourself to be supported. Let yourself just sort of sink into the furniture and feel how safe and secure you are sitting in this way, balanced, centered, feeling whole and complete, really safe and relaxed. And if you haven't already, I'd like you to take the first of several slow, deep breaths, inhaling through your nose, ideally. Fill your lungs, hold as you peak, and then just to slowly exhale. Go beyond where you'd normally stop, and then do it again, only a little bit longer each time because you're becoming more and more relaxed. By the time you get to the third or fourth slow, deep breath, they'll be much longer than before as you become even more relaxed.
And so with these few deep breaths, the process has begun. And you have to admit it's just at least a little bit of fun to let your body release all the tension and to feel relaxation just filling you. And it's fun to feel the anxiety abate and the calmness seems to overtake and the confusion is gone and your mind is clear and happiness has replaced the fear. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to feel real great. And it's a lot of fun to use your mind to create whatever it is that your imagination desires. You can create in your mind the idea and the fire to inspire you to do what you need to do to make those dreams begin to come true. It's fun to be the maestro of your life. It's fun to hold the baton. It's fun to be in charge of all your choices and get to choose to move on. You're going to grow. It's up to you to choose what speed and what direction, and you can do it, with a lot of love and a great deal of affection. It's lots of fun to live your life the way that you really choose. It's fun to know that your mind is such a powerful tool for you to use.
With your eyes closed and imagining that you're in a movie theater, and to see the movie screen, you look straight ahead, but up just slightly. And you see projected on this screen that's about 15 feet in front of you, this big screen, an image of yourself doing something in your daily life that you find to be drudgery, that you really don't like doing, but you have to do. It could be one particular task. It could be a whole big job, but take a moment to allow yourself to imagine seeing on this movie screen you doing this task in this circumstance, and you're not having fun. You're not having fun at all. Feel in your body how it feels to watch yourself go through this activity. And don't push it away this time. Allow yourself to feel fully the depth and breadth, the truth of how you feel when you're not having fun doing this thing. No, sir, no way. And I want you to imagine in your hand is a remote control, and the button that you see first is the one that's depressed. It says receive. I'd like you to put your finger on the send button. Don't press it just yet. And I want you to begin to construct yourself an image as if projected on this screen of you doing this very same task. Until you can do what you love, I want you to think about loving what you do. This very same task, but with a different attitude. With the very same people, maybe the people that are driving you crazy, but instead of changing them, you've changed yourself. And somehow you realize that that matters. And with a new attitude, you see this situation changing. Until you can see yourself having fun, making the best of a bad situation. Say to yourself silently and internally, until I can do what I really love to do, I'm going to practice loving doing what I do. And now press that send button and feel a letting go, a release. That's how you step into a commitment to reframe your life in a positive way, to be responsible for making the best of every situation. Feel yourself releasing that commitment to yourself.
And notice how as you feel free, as you feel light and unencumbered, you see there's a new space in your life, something you've let go. And now there's room for something new to grow. So it's time to find some way new to have fun. Something perhaps you've never ever done, or something you used to do a long time ago, but somehow it fell by the wayside. Now it's time to pick that back up or take something new for a ride. Find something new to have some fun. And, I'm willing to bet that if you don't know someplace else to look, you can find it on the internet. There's lots of fun things in the universe, lots of new hobbies or things to learn. You don't even have to work real hard. It's not a difficult task to learn. It's just go find something that interests you. Google it. See what's new. Find something that used to grab your attention and put it back there again. But what we're saying here is very clear. Go have some fun with intention. It's just, I have the intention to have some fun. Maybe it's just a couple of minutes here or there, but I have the intention of having some fun, and I'm going to put it somewhere. I'm going to have some fun in my life, more than I've had before. I'm going to add and increase my level of fun. I can do that if I choose. I can do that with my intention. I can do that with absolute confidence and absolutely no apprehension. I know I can have fun. I've done it before. I know I can do it again. That's all you have to do, is say that to yourself. Just in your mind, pretend you're having more fun and seeing how it's happening, and then go make that dream come true. It's really easy, and it only takes a few minutes, but you know what it's going to do? It's going to get your mind to see how this feels, and you're going to discover that it not only heals, it leads you to want to do even more. And boy, there's so much fun in store if you just direct your mind with a clear intention to go create the fun.
Remember, life is less about what happens to us than it's about what we choose to do with it. So there really are no boring lives, as has been said countless times over the ages, just boring people. Nobody's making fun of us, but when we're bored, that's not a circumstance, that's an attitude. Turn it around. How could you possibly, think about it, with all there is to know and all of it available at your fingertips. How could you not be fascinated by something? You're lying to yourself. You're pretending. You're denying it if you're not in touch with something deep inside that really intrigues you. Don't be afraid of it. It could never be a wrong thing. If there's any anxiety attached, that just means you don't know enough about it, right? Knowledge is the antidote to anxiety and worry and doubt, so move toward it. If you're interested, move toward it. Understand it, embrace it. And bring that attitude with you effortlessly. As you reorient yourself to the sound of our voices, remember where you are and what you'll see in a moment when you open your eyes. Take a nice, big, full, deep breath, inhaling, pulling in strength, and as you now exhale, open your eyes, wide awake, alert, back in the room, rested, feeling fine, better than before.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling to be back to a place that is safe with a little bit more fun injected. I was thinking about something I said earlier in the show about how, it's all attitude and you can make fun out of it. You really can't make fun of being tortured. There are some things in life that, you really, there are some things that aren't fun, being in front of the IRS. I know you had a good time in that foundry, but there are experiences in life that you just can't make any fun out of. But that being said, there are lots of things we do currently in our lives that are just sort of neutral. They aren't not fun. They aren't fun. And we could very easily, with a change of attitude, make those a little bit of fun. There's a difference between a lot of fun and a little bit of fun, but even a little bit of fun, just kind of a snicker is okay. You don't need a belly laugh. Sometimes just a little internal snicker. That's the salt and pepper, that's the paprika that adds a little spice to the life.
That's a good point. Just a smile on your face.
Makes a big difference. A little bit here, a little bit there, makes a big difference.
I do that every time I pick up the phone to call somebody or to answer the phone. And I've questioned myself, am I being phony about it? Am I being a phony by doing that? And I decided, no, there's nothing phony
Absolutely
about
not.
it.
Every other animal, when they show their teeth, it's aggression, but humans smile because it changes the quality of our voice. It makes our voice sound happier.
And it generates endorphins and all kinds of wonderful neurotransmitters and makes us brighter and more satisfied. It makes us happier.
And what's phony about smiling by choice,
We think of smiling and our emotions usually as something that happens after a reason to feel that way. And now, with all that we're learning about emotional intelligence, we can instruct people to lead with the feeling before. You can feel like a winner before the race.
Yeah. And in fact, you're sort of being an actor, but a bad actor only smiles with their mouth, and a real great actor smiles with their entire face. And so we all have to learn how to do that. It's in a way. Preparing for what hasn't happened yet is acting. It hadn't happened yet. So you're preparing for it. You're acting in your mind. Here's what's going to happen. Rehearsing it, preparing for it. There's nothing bad about that, except that the way most people do that is by rehearsing it going wrong. It's called worry, and most people spend most of their life rehearsing things going wrong instead of what the great actors learn to do, which is rehearsing, sticking the dismount.
And so you can see the benefit in a series here. That's why you subscribe. You get one of these programs every week. Be sure and save these. They don't take up that much room. Memory in computers now is so inexpensive that there's just no reason to allow iTunes or whatever system you're using to delete these. Keep them.
Yeah, and your great-grandkids might want to hear them. Who knows?
This is timeless, ageless information. And more will be known as we continue to study consciousness and emotional intelligence, as well as all the mental intelligence and brain research that's coming online. This whole field of neuroplasticity, pain control, and deliberate, accelerated healing. There's so much that's happening. Very, very exciting. We're real lucky to be alive at a time when there's so much progress and humans are evolving. And that's the good news. You're not going to hear it in the news. You got to go out there and search out the information if you really need a reason to be happy. But maybe you don't need a reason to be happy. Maybe you can just have fun and make some fun and make happiness and fun and joy and peace your contribution to the world.
Yeah, and it's not always been like this. I mean, this is a very unique and exciting time. As little as 110 years ago, Charles Duell, who was the head of the patent office, said, there's no need to have a patent office anymore because everything that's going to be invented has already been invented. Well, there's nobody around the world today who believes that. You know, we all know that there's some incredible new fun inventions on the horizon, and it is a very, very exciting time to be alive.
Right, the Snuggie. How could you have missed the Snuggie?
Exactly. A game changer, no doubt.
Or the Chia Pet.
Yeah, really.
These are significant breakthroughs. Forgive me, we're just having fun. Thanks for listening. Join us next week, a new program in your podcast folder every week, and tell your friends about FocusedPassion.com. There's an ED in there after the W's. FocusedPassion.com. Use that, send one to a friend gadget, and as always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.